Hey guys, welcome to RT Infrastructure Micro Lessons, where we cover short lessons about networking, network automation, and AWS. Today, we're going to be talking about default gateway. So, what is a default gateway? So, you can kind of think of a default gateway as the network's exit door. So, if a destination is outside the local network, traffic goes to the default gateway first. Now, if you look at this little diagram, we have on the left side, we have 192.168.1.0, that's one network, and then 192.168.2.0, which is another network. If PC0 wants to get to PC1, it needs to first go through the default gateway. This default gateway I've configured on this core switch, and it is 192.168.1.254. And if it wants to get to PC1, it would first go through this core switch, hit this IP address, and then go back, that interface, I should say, and then go back to PC1. Um, so previously, we talked about SVIs, and I actually configured an SVI on this core switch, and that's essentially what this um, what this default gateway is. It's just an SVI that I created. And a default gateway is nothing like for instance, this core switch, all I did was configure SVI. It's not actually anything fancy that I did to make it a default gateway. It's the default gateway because of the device that it's on. And it's on this core switch because the core switch knows how to get to other networks. So in this case, um, for default gateway for the access layer switch, we are going to configure the default gateway for this access level, this switch one, and PC0, for instance, already know how to get to the default gateway. You either statically assigned it, or you use DHCP to give it a default gateway, to tell it where the default gateway is. So let's go ahead and get into switch one, and we're going to go ahead and set up our default gateway. So as you can see, I'm at the bottom here, and we're going to go ahead and go into our configuration terminal. Once we do that, all we have to do is go IP default gateway, and then you type in your IP address of the default gateway. So that's 192.168.1.254. And there you go. You have configured the switch. Now, whenever the switch, now just to be clear about access layer switch is the access layer switch does not need a default gateway to pass traffic on onwards. And what I mean by that is PC0, if it wants to get to PC1 or if it wants to reach the internet, switch one doesn't need to have a default gateway. It's a layer 2 device. It does everything by forwarding packets via the MAC address. And even if I didn't give it an SVI or a default gateway, it would still work fine. So you're probably thinking, okay, why did we set a default gateway on this access layer switch? Well, that's because just like why we use an SVI, if I want to manage that switch, such as SSH or have SNMP running or syslogs running, it needs an SVI and it needs to know how to get out of the default gateway if I'm trying to do any of those things outside of the local network. So that's the main reason why you want to set a default gateway uh, on a access layer switch. It's a different story with a core switch. Obviously, the SVI is the actual default gateway, so you would need that. And it doesn't even have to be on a core switch. You can configure an IP address on the router, and that could be the default gateway to get out of your network. It's the line of where one network ends and another begins is where you want to essentially say, okay, this is going to be my default. This IP address is going to be my default gateway, and then all the other devices will have to configure their own default gateway. Say for instance, I mentioned before PC0. When you statically assign an IP address, you also have to specify the default gateway, and that's when you put in 192.168.1.254, or you can get it from DHCP. All right, that'll do it with for this one, guys. I'll see you in the next one.